Thank you. So we have a pretty brief agenda today to leave lots of room for very specific questions. I will put in the chat here a link to a copy of our agenda. It'll kind of change as we add things and talk about things today. I'll add links to specific resources that come up, but this is so you can sort of follow along since I'm not really doing slides more. We're going to use demos in Canvas. So that is our sort of go-to to start with. I'm going to share my screen so we can look at this initial piece of information to go over, which is the COVID-19 information. A few of you were at our sessions last week. I just want to go over these again in case anything has changed. So this is the most up-to-date information on what we need for spring. We need our booster. We need to get a test no more than 48 hours before coming to campus. We need to wear our KN95 masks in the classroom, and you need to go here to this link to sign the pledge. So those are your 4 to-dos. And in an email from the provost that clarified some of these details, I think last week I had said there was a space to upload your test results. They have since announced that they aren't actually cataloging the test results of the COVID-19 test you take before coming to campus. It's a bit of an honor code. So there isn't actually a place for you to go log your positive or negative test with Maryland. If you do an at-home test, you need to log that with the state of Maryland. That's all on the packaging and stuff, but there isn't a place to actually do that with UMD. So any questions on our COVID-19 protocol for this start of the semester? Okay, so nothing too different from last week, but I just wanted to check and go over. This is our agenda we're looking at here together. I did want to do a bit of a top of mind, and since we have a pretty small group here, I'd be happy to have everyone either share in the chat or unmute the main things they want to go over. I know Michael mentioned publishing the Canvas site. Anyone else have things top of mind you're really hoping we walk through? Otherwise, I will go over what we have listed. Okay, so if we are looking at a Canvas site and we are ready to publish it, I'm going to show a little bit of what that looks like. Get my screen share going. So this is my Canvas site. It is completely empty. It has nothing in it. I'm assuming you're at the stage where you've populated your homepage and your syllabus and all of that good stuff. I would be ready to hit the publish button here on the top right. It should be under course status. When you hit publish, it means anything that's published within your course will be viewable by the students. So here is an example of a course with a couple modules, some content, some pages, some assignments. If this were unpublished within the course, the students wouldn't see it. But because it is published within the course that is itself open to the students, all of it will be viewable. Any questions on that, Michael, since I know that was your first ask?
No, that's good. I can do that.
Excellent. We love to hear it. And Kay is saying just some review since you haven't used Canvas since last spring. Yes, we'll just brush off some cobwebs. We did go over this last week, but another quick refresher on getting the Canvas homepage template into your course. We'll do that here. If you haven't touched your course yet, it might look a little bit empty like this one. And just a quick refresher, we would go to import from Commons. Let that load up. Within this giant library of resources, we would hone it down to just the items made at Smith. So if I search for Smith Teach, I'll see all of the departmental and programmatic templates, and you can import it by clicking on it and using the blue import button. So I picked the AIA accounting department template and I hit import or download. You'll have all the courses that you're enrolled in as an instructor here. I'll click on the one I hope to import into, scroll all the way to the bottom and import into course. You'll get a message that it was successful, but to see that you successfully imported it, you need to navigate back to that course site. And I believe I have it right here, and I should see my landing page. So nice and easy there. The next piece that'll be important once you've got your template in is deciding what the students need to use on the toolbar on the left. You have say in which of these tools are visible by the students and in what order they're featured, which can help make this a little bit of an easier navigation for the students. And so in order to manipulate this at all, we have to scroll to the bottom and select settings. It'll open you to this page of course details that you can change and edit, but we're interested in the third tab over labeled navigation. You'll see two lists of menu options here. We have this first list and a second list of items. The first list are the actual menu options you want to keep versus the second list, which are just all of the options available to you. So for example, I may say that I am not interested in using Adobe Creative Cloud in my class. It's not useful to my students. I can click the three dots and hit disable.
Okay.
And you'll see it's no longer on my list here. It's gone. And let's say I am interested in using modules and grades in my course. I would bring those up to the main list by hitting the three dots and clicking enable. So now grades is on my main list. Within this list, you can drag and drop to move things around. So maybe I'm teaching a lot of sessions on Zoom and I want them to be able to get to Zoom quickly. I'll bring Zoom up to be one of the more featured items, be up top. And then all these changes are great, but they won't maintain if you don't hit save at the bottom. So I'm going to hit save. And I should see my changes show up here on the left-hand side. So Zoom moved up to be one of the top items here. Grades is now one of my items, and so is modules. And you'll notice some of these have this I with a slash through them. For some of these options, for all of the options that have the I with the slash through, it means the students aren't going to see that. For some of these things like collaborations, I think this big blue button, even if you told Canvas you're not interested in having it on the list, it'll stay on the list. It's just going to be hidden from the students. Versus something like announcements, which you told you wanted on the list, it's not viewable to students because it actually has no content in it yet. So once I add my first announcement, which I can do with the plus announcement button, I'll send a welcome message with a nice message, greeting them, telling them I'm excited to teach them this semester, and I hit save. It'll go out to my students. They'll see it was sent at this time. They'll be able to interact with it. And it still has my hidden I. Do you know what that is, Suzanne?
You might just have to refresh the page. Oh.
We'll do a check on that. Well, once there is content available
it's
under,
because I think you might have to publish it and then
I'll do that for my non-existent students.
there you go.
There we go. So there were no announcements in it before. So this item would have been hidden, much like assignments is hidden, since I have no assignments written yet. But once I gave it an announcement and published it out, the I went away. So now the students can come see my welcome message.
I have a question about that. The welcome message is, the announcement is on the website itself. Does any notice go out to students that there is an announcement?
It does. It goes in through their UMD email addresses. So it comes to them like an email.
So they get the announcement. They don't have to go to the website to look for it, but it would be there also. Is that how it works?
Exactly. The content
Okay.
of the announcement is previewed in the email. They might still come to Canvas if you have any links in there, if they want to read it in full. And if you make any edits to the announcement, I think they need to see those in the Canvas site, but they'll get the preview of that language in the email.
And like in what Carrie did, how her course wasn't published yet, but then she tried to send an announcement. In that case, student wouldn't get that announcement. So if she wants to resend that instead of retyping the whole thing, she can actually hit edit and change it to delay posting. Right, and then just set it to a future date. right? So like if you had one from like last semester and you want to resend it out, you just do delay posting and then it will actually resend it out and then students will see it.
Perfect. I'll delay it and send it out to my, let's see who I have in my class. Just me. So I'll get the message later. Excellent. Other questions on announcements or course navigation?
How do you modify your homepage?
Excellent question. I imported this template. When I hit edit up at the top,
Right,
I have the ability to edit in here almost like a Word document. So I could change this to BMGT number,
Right.
change that here as well. Say welcome. And I'm just highlighting things and editing it like I would a Word document. So,
okay, and the reason why I ask is because in my homepage, I have the pictures and the contact information from my TAs who were my TAs last semester. So I want to remove their pictures and information. And then I've already told the new TAs to post their pictures and information.
perfect. So you should be able to highlight the text of their name and their email and their image and hit delete, and they should disappear for you.
Okay.
And then be sure to hit save at the bottom so that those changes maintain.
Okay.
And then as long as your students have been added into, or your TAs, current TAs have been added into Canvas, they should be able to come in and hit edit and add in their image and text.
Okay. Okay, great.
Excellent. And that's a great best practice. Make sure that your students are intro to who those TAs are. Looking good. Okay, I had Canvas navigation, announcements. All right, we can talk a little bit about assignments, which is sort of my general term for either a assignment they turn in online, an assignment that's a discussion or a quiz. All of those things fall under the assignment bucket. Since you're teaching in person for the majority of the semester, fingers crossed, you'll be giving some things in person, some assignments, some activities that you may want to still grade or have exist in the world of Canvas so that you're not randomly adding points on at the end of the semester when you're doing your grading. And we'll show how to do that as well. So I'm going to demo with a basic assignment first by clicking on assignments. We'll hit the plus button in the top right to add a new assignment. And then we have a bunch of settings that we get to edit. First, actually, I want to talk a moment about these, what are called assignment groups, but I usually refer to them as buckets that hold multiple assignments that are similar or you want to weight the same way. So maybe you have all of your discussions in one bucket because in aggregate at the end of the semester, all of the discussions should be equal to 10% of the student's grade. So I would make this bucket hold discussions. And then let's say I want to add a group for their written essays that I'm going to weight more heavily. I'd hit the plus sign for plus group and label that as essays. So again, all this really is creating the categories. And if you look at your syllabus, you probably already have a grade distribution written out that says how much these different buckets should be worth weighted wise, if it's 10%, 15%. And so that information is just really easy for you to translate right over here. I'm going to set my discussions weighting and my essays weighting by clicking on the 3 dots beside the assignment button and clicking assignment groups weight. I have to check this box to say that I need to assign a weight to these categories, and I'm going to just input that weight right here. So I'm missing a couple categories. This doesn't add up to 100, but this will do for our demonstration at the moment. And then let's say I actually want to create the place where the students turn in their first essay. I can hit the plus button here in the essay category and create this assignment. I want to look with you at all the details of the assignment, so I'm going to hit more options. All right, I'm ready for essay 1. I have all sorts of instructions telling the students how long it should be, what I'm going to look for, all those details. Now, the bucket of essays is going to get weighted at a certain percentage. So I, as the instructor, get to determine if all the essays are evenly important within that category or not. So essay 1, maybe I'll only make 10 points, and the next essay is 20 points because it's actually a little more important than the first one. You get to make those calls as the instructor. The assignment group is that category, that bucket that it lives in. We only made 2 so far, and essays is the accurate one. So I'll leave that drop down as is. And points is usually going to be your display method for things you're grading in Canvas. I mentioned before that this can be used for assignments that are done in person or online, etc. And this would be a place where you make that choice. So maybe I'm giving an in-class assignment that they don't actually submit anything for on Canvas, but I want to give them the grade on Canvas because I don't want to have to do weird calculations at the end of the term. You can mark it as a no submission or an on paper submission. That's basically going to leave you a column in the grade book to grade the students. There's just no place for the student to turn in something on Canvas that you'd have an artifact for. This is assuming that artifact happened in person and you have the papers, in your own office. But for this essay, I'm going to have them write it in their own time and submit it online. So I mark it as an online submission. For something like an essay, I would certainly have it be a file upload, so they can upload a doc or PDF of their essay. For something like a file upload, an essay, I would have an unlimited amount of attempts because it means that the students can submit the wrong file by accident many, many times in a row without ever bothering you. So there's really no harm for the amount of attempts there. And there are built-in tools on checking originality, looking for that academic integrity. So you can dig into some of those resources if that's interesting to you. We're going to circle back on group assignments, and I'll sort of poll the room to see if folks are doing group work. So for now, I would leave this as an individual essay assignment. And since it's not group work, I'm not too interested in a peer review at this time. We hit the assignment box, which is one of the more important settings groupings here, including your available from and until date and a due date. The available from and until dates are the concrete when it opens and when it closes, versus the due date is sort of the visual date of when it's going to be due. So the students could still submit up through the until date. It'll be marked as late. And the due date is the one that the students have in their calendar and that gets advertised to them as when it needs to be submitted by. So those are important considerations to make when you're picking these dates. If you know you're okay taking things up to a week late, but you'll deduct a couple points, making the until date up through a week late. And if you're really strict about your due dates, you can have them be the same date and time. And the available from, I often leave open for my assignments because I don't really mind if the students see it sooner. But for something like an exam, you would want to have that hidden up until you want them to complete it. If you have multiple sections in your course and you want different due dates for those 2 sections, you can hit the add button and you'll see the multiple sections listed here. I only have one, but you would see Carrie's course 0101 and Carrie's course 0102, and you could separate what date that section gets versus what the other section gets. So I'm going to save my assignment. Looks good here. I'm even going to publish it. And now when I go to my assignments page, I have one item under my essays bucket. Something I didn't mention when we were pulling out the assignment weights here is that in your grading schema, it's a really good practice to keep any single assignment to under about 35% of the grade, 35% being the absolute max. Distributing their grade across multiple mediums across multiple assignments is best practice so that they can demonstrate their mastery in a multitude of ways. And there's no one assignment that's so heavily weighted that they might be pulled toward any academic integrity violations. So just a best practice that I've seen utilized in lots of Smith courses. I am chugging through my assignments options here. Do we have any questions before I move on? Or anything you were hoping to see about assignments? That's okay. We will keep rolling. I'm going to hop over into a different course that Suzanne has made and curated that is full of fake assignments with fake submissions that make it very easy to demonstrate what it looks like when you have students in the course, because I wanted to talk about grading those assignments after they've been assigned. So we're going to take a look at the grade book, which I got to by navigating to grades on the left side panel. We'll see this interesting collection of students and their variety of submissions and point values here. And the three things I think are interesting to look at is SpeedGrader, hiding and releasing grades, and rubrics. So those are the three pieces I'm going to kind of explore here. So I'm going to, and Suzanne, is there anything I can't change here? Is there anything you're actively experimenting with, or am I okay to?
You can
mess
do
things up?
whatever.
Okay, great.
I have to fix my course anyway. So
I'm going to clear out, are any of these items? Yeah, here we have some submissions. Okay, so for this assignment with peer review here on the right, we have a few students who have submitted. Thank you, Suzanne, for being a good student who submitted their work. And I want to hide all the grading until it's all been done, and then I will release the grades when it is all said and done. So I'm going to go to grade posting policy. And at this point, if you haven't touched it so far, it's probably set to automatically, meaning as soon as I type in 5 points, the students see that they got 5 points. What I'd prefer in this case, because I want to get the grading done before they all see it, I would click manually and hit save. So now you'll see the word manual here on my my sort of grade column. And if I give this student 0 points because they haven't turned anything in, we should see that it's not actually being sent out to them. So you'll see this I with the slash through, which in general in the Canvas world means that the students are not seeing it, it's hidden. These students would not see that they got 0 so far. This student, I'm going to give a 25. And I can tell that they submitted something because of this little icon that looks something like a notebook. The SpeedGrader I referred to earlier is where you can actually see what the student submitted and your rubric and leave comments all in one space. Grading directly in the gradebook, like I just demonstrated, is really only valuable if you have a very quick pass fail, yes, they submitted, no, they didn't kind of a assignment. But if you actually want to see what was submitted, you can get to this assignment's SpeedGrader through this 3-button dropdown, 3-dot dropdown, and the word SpeedGrader. There's a couple ways to get here, but this is how you arrive. Kyle clearly is unhappy with my assignment, but I might be lenient with them regardless. You get here and you can actually see what the user has submitted. So here, Suzanne had written out her submission, and I'm able to leave comments and leave point values all here within the panel on the right-hand side. And then when I'm done with Suzanne, I've given them, I'm going to give them a 25. I can click out of that box and it should kind of settle those points in. There's not really a save button here within the page. But once I've typed in those points, I'm ready to grade the next person. I can hit the arrow on the right to see the next person's submission. I get to someone who never submitted for this assignment, and I see this student does not have a submission for this assignment. It's very easy for me to know to give them a 0. And every time I've entered a grade, you've seen the word hidden because I've determined I don't want the students to see it until they're all graded. But when I'm ready, let's say I've finished grading 9 out of 9 of the students, I can click on this grade book shaped icon in the top left. That takes me back to the big grid view. Excellent. I think this was the one I'd been grading. And let's say I'm happy with what I have here and I want the students to see their grade. It's been a week. I want them to get this feedback, even if I'm not done, whatever it is. You can change the grade posting policy from manual to automatic, or if you just want these folks to see their grades in the meantime, you can hit post grades. So I did the 3-dot drop down and go to post grades. I get a couple of pieces of information. Maybe you want everyone, even the folks I didn't finish, to see, or maybe the 10 I was able to grade, I just want them to get their grade in the meantime. You can check that option. I'm going to do it for everyone. Hit post.
And you can even send it based on sections too. You saw that little flip.
Perfect. So maybe I did all of my morning session and I want them to get their grade, but I'm not done with my Tuesday section or whatever it might be. So that is showing and releasing grades and using a little bit of SpeedGrader. And now, Suzanne, I might actually just show rubric process from start to finish. Is there any assignment in particular that you think could use a good rubric?
I had a
Open
question.
assignments.
I had
Yes.
a question about one of your scores on your
Sure.
assignments. It said the URL was out of 0 assignment. Yes, out of 0. How do you change that?
If I had set this assignment to be out of 0, it might be because it's a bonus assignment, but let's say I wanted to make it out of 5.
Yes,
I'll click on the assignment. It'll take me to this assignment page, which I could have
Right.
also gotten to through this menu.
right.
Hit edit, and then points out of 0, I could change to
Got it.
5.
Okay.
Now, Suzanne, I've had times where I maybe wanted to change the point value, but I'd already graded some students or some students had already submitted.
Right.
What are my things to think about in that scenario?
Oh, I have not checked how that works. Like if you already graded them and then you change out of points.
The times
Oh.
I've experimented with it, it leaves you a bit of a headache because it doesn't proportionally change. So if I gave them a 5 out of 5, but then make it out of 10, it doesn't say, oh, well, they had 100 before, they have 100 now. It will keep it 5 out of 10.
Mhm.
So if you do ever change the base value, I think you have to maybe hide your grades, redistribute your numbers, and then post them again.
Actually, Suzanne it was showing me that you can download the old assignment. You can create a new assignment out of 10 and then download the old assignment and then the grades. Is that right, Suzanne, with the
Oh.
Excel?
Oh, because what you wanted to do was like give them extra points or something.
Yes, yeah,
Yeah.
after, this is what Carrie is talking about, after you have already given them points. Yes.
Oh yeah, so I think with Mike's case was he exported the grade book and it comes in as a CSV file,
Yeah.
and then he just changed all the grades, like add another extra 5 points, and then he imported back in. So it automatically adds the 5 points to the column instead of just going every single one and add plus 5.
Okay.
But that's to add value to the assignment instead of changing the point value,
Mm.
Okay.
right?
Yes.
That's what we did.
Yeah, but actually you created, it was just one assignment.
Oh, wait, yeah, I remember because you had to create a new one.
Yes.
Yes, okay.
You
yes.
created a new assignment. We downloaded the old one and then you copied it over and then uploaded it or something.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
because he had it, he could use not Pearson. It's one of the textbook apps,
McGraw-Hill,
McGraw-Hill.
McGraw-Hill.
right? So they did all the exams on there, but he
Mhm.
had a quiz type assignment. So he needed to import it, but he couldn't import the numbers into a quiz. So we had to recreate it as an assignment, but then we imported the grades into that column.
Okay.
So it sounds like to me, you want to have your point values correct before you
Yes,
do this, or else you're going to be
exactamente,
knocking on
yeah.
Suzanne's door.
Oh,
And
yeah,
you need
his
to
case was
be
like very, very different.
right. These are, and that is the nature of these Canvas things, is I can go through all the basics as much as we want, but you're going to end up with your own personalized little question. So we'll save space for any of those there at the
Okay.
end. But I appreciate that follow-up. Anything else within the assignments world here? Doing good. Okay, so I was about to take us through rubrics. So we have this URL assignment at 5 points now. And let's say that's one that you want your TAs to grade, or you have a rubric that you kind of use by hand, but you've never put it into Canvas, or you've never been much of a rubrics person. This is a great place to start. So I'm going to hit the plus button here to add a rubric to this assignment. I'll title it. And you get to define your criteria and your rating. So the values here. I might have that they picked a useful URL. And I would say on the point value range from 3 to 2, I tend to mark it like this, to 1. And you can put the details in there. So a 3 means that it was extremely useful, that it followed all the criteria you'd laid out in class. Maybe a 2 means it only included some of the criteria you'd laid out in class, a 1 being partial, and 0 being maybe they didn't submit one at all. So that would be your gradation that you lay out for the students, and try and make it as explicit as possible. I found in my class being able to point to the rubrics and say, this is what I'm grading you on. If you can look at your own assignment with this rubric and say, I hit all these marks, you have a pretty good idea of what your final grade is going to look like. And rubrics obviously change over the years. So the first year I taught with a certain assignment and have a rubric, I didn't account for the types of mistakes the students were going to make because I couldn't anticipate them that well. And then over the years, the rubrics get honed to be more and more accurate to what is a likely mistake or likely sort of transgression from the students. I only have 1 row here and it's up to 3 points, but I want to make my point value of the assignment and my rubric kind of match here. So I'll do a new criterion, I'll label, and I'll make it out of 2 points so it adds up correctly. We'll do a partial marks for 1, and I'll hit create rubric. Now, when it's time to grade this URL assignment, I'll go to SpeedGrader, which you can get to from the gradebook or from the assignment itself. When I go to grade, rather than having to remember what I thought was important in this assignment, what makes a 4 and what makes a 2 out of 5, and what makes a 3 out of 5, I can hit view rubric, give myself some space here, and very quickly click the buttons to match what point value they receive. So they had a great item in the first criteria, but not so much in the second. All right, it does the automatic adding here for me, a 4 out of 5. And the students will be able to see this quick clickable feedback. You didn't have to write a comment necessarily because they'll see where they got dinged in the rubric, and you can give them a 4 out of 5. I have rubrics on almost every single one of my assignments. It took a lot of effort to make them. I had my TAs help me over the years, but it is a game changer when it comes to grading quickly inside of Canvas. And it makes offloading grading to a TA even easier because it's all set in there for them. Any questions on rubrics? Does anyone use rubrics now in their course that's online with us today? Maybe.
Yes,
Okay.
I do. Yeah,
Yeah,
they're,
I find
they're
them to
really
be
helpful.
Glad to hear it. Glad to hear it. Okay, I have left 2 items here. We're going to talk about groups and group assignments and using modules. So I'm going to stay in Suzanne's BMGT course here, and she has a couple of enrollees in her course, including some co-instructors, and she has some groups set up. So the reasons you might use a group in Canvas are anytime that you're giving an assignment where you want to give one grade to all of the students. So maybe it's a group essay, presentation, project. If you want to say everyone in group 2 gets 45 out of 50 points on this project in one fell swoop, having them set up as groups in Canvas makes that very easy. It's also a good place for them to be able to reference who is in their group, especially if you're teaching online or if you're online for the first couple weeks. They won't necessarily have the chance to trade numbers or anything in class, but they can find their classmates' contact information here in Canvas, and it's a bit of a nice home base to have those groups. The reason you might have more than one group set is what they're called here in Canvas would be if you have multiple projects throughout a semester. So maybe you have a case brief and you have a presentation in class. So the case brief are different groups than the people who they do the project with. That might be why you have multiple group sets. I'm going to hit plus a group set. We'll make a new one here together. I'll do final project. You can allow self sign up, which I know is commonly used, which would mean that they're choosing their groups here within Canvas. You might have even randomly assigned them outside of Canvas. Maybe you did that in class, but then you want them to replicate whoever they met in class to be here on Canvas. That's a good use for the self sign up. But you also might split them artificially here. So I could say, I want 3 groups, and you get to choose, is it more valuable to have a certain number of groups? Like I have 10 cases, so I need 10 groups, or is it I have a project where there's 3 roles within this project, so all of the groups need to have 3 people in it. You get to make the call there between these 2 options. Require that group members be in the same section. I can't really imagine a scenario where that wouldn't be important, so definitely check that box, and you can hit save. Do the hard math for us, split out our groups. And it automatically gave us this distribution, gave us 2, 4, and 2. It's not always perfect. I think we'd rather have 3, 3, and 2, depending. So you can always click on a student and drag them and make sure that there's sort of an iteration here that you're happy with. And then let's say a student was to join your class late. Here we have some examples of students that are unassigned. So you created the groups, or maybe it's self sign up. They've never signed up. You can either drag them to a group or message them if it's self sign up and tell them to assign themselves to a group. That's what it would look like if you have anyone missing. I'm pretty happy with my final project groups. So I'm going to go ahead and create my assignment for the final project, which we've done now together. Project, instructions, everything here is going to look pretty similar to what we've done before. Assignment group, maybe I picked what bucket this goes in. I'll do exams because it's a big part of their grade. Points, everything else looks just about the same until we get to that group assignment option that we had sort of skipped over last time. I checked that this is a group assignment, and the only real benefit of having it be a group assignment is that I don't have to give their grades individually. So I'm going to leave this unchecked for the moment, and I get to pick which of those group sets is valuable at this time. So I'm working on the final project. I want the final project groups. This is very vital to do before you assign the assignment. So once students have turned things in, it's very hard to make it a group assignment afterward. So make sure you do this. If you want it to be a group assignment, do this first. I set all of this, I save it. Beautiful. If I publish it, go to my assignments and I want to grade it, I just want to see if I can demo what it looks like to give one grade for multiple students. Let's see, final project. Let's see, if I give Mary a 50 out of 50, you'll see the folks that were in her group automatically got the 50 put in. If I give Kyle's group a 20 out of 50, their group mates also automatically get the 20. So you can see how grading 50 students can be made much quicker by setting it as a group assignment. But then let's say this other group here, one student wasn't really pulling their weight, their group members contacted me. It doesn't seem fair for me to give them all the same grade. I will save them last in the order of grading. I'll grade everyone else who didn't have any interpersonal issues, grade them all. And then I say, okay, it's actually time for me to grade that group that is going to have different grades from each other. I can go back to the assignment, hit edit, go back to that checkbox that was allowing to set the grades individually. I'm actually going to turn that setting on, then head back to SpeedGrader, and then grade that section that had a disparity in it. So basically you leave the setting off as long as you are happy with how the groups are configured, and then you can turn it back on to be individual if you ever need to make adjustments. So I hope that made sense. I know the group assignments can be a lot of work, but they're save you time in the long run. So I have about 15 minutes left. I'll spend 5 minutes here talking about using modules to organize your course, and then I will save some room for questions. Modules are not a part of our course template, but I really enjoy using them in my course. They're a great way to stay organized. In a survey that the DivIT TLTC group did earlier in the pandemic, it was one of the top things that students really like in a course is when the faculty uses modules. And modules is another bucket system where you basically create buckets for each week of your course, and you put in all of the content that matters for that week. So this is a great example. It has links to readings and videos. It has the assignments. It maybe even has a landing page that gives a little bit of context, but all of the things that you're asking the student to do in Canvas for that week live in that bucket. So anything you're asking about week 1 lives there. Anything you're asking about week 2 lives in week 2, week 3, etc. So they're basically these organization hubs for each of these pieces of information. And it also allows you to time release things in your course. So if I only wanted week 2 to open the Monday that week 2 begins, you can hit edit and lock until, and set a date and time that that module will open and let the students see the contents. So extra good if you're doing a new build this year and you maybe don't know what you want in week 7 through 15, using modules would be a great way to be able to hide that content until it's ready for the students to see. So modules are your friends. I'll just demonstrate quickly. If I had a new assignment or I wanted to put something here in week 2, I would hit the plus button. I'm prompted at the top. Do I want to add an assignment, a quiz, a file, a page, discussion, etc.? I will say I will add an assignment, and I can scroll through all of the existing assignments that I've made. So maybe it's in-class assignment, and I hit add item, and it gets added to the list here. And you can drag and drop so that it's in the order of priority for the students. It's almost like a checklist. So the students really love it. It's a landing page with weekly checklists of what they need to accomplish. Nothing's ever left ambiguous, and they're big fans. I have just been chatting away. I am all set on my list of things I wanted to cover with you all. Please pop in the chat or unmute if you have questions. Take my water break. If you're all feeling good, oh, one other thing, just a shout out to remember to check the ADS portal to see if you have any accommodations this semester, and you can come to us with questions on how to set that up in Canvas or talk to the ADS office. They usually have that covered. I'll pop that in the chat if you need to check that, but otherwise I'll stop our recording.
Wait, I have a quick question, and I mean, you don't have to record it or not.